Okay, so today we're going to learn how to make bubble letters. So you're first going to start with a blank piece of drawing paper. You also want to have a pencil and a ruler. You should always have a pencil for art class. Every time that you come in here, you should have a pencil prepared for working. If you have a good eraser too, that also helps. So the first thing that you're going to do is take your ruler and you're going to create light lines at the top and the bottom, and you're going to do that throughout your paper. Now your rulers that you use are a little bit thicker than the one that I have here, so you could make yours you could just make it one ruler width is fine. But essentially what you're trying to do is give yourself a space, a wide space to create your letters in so that you have a boundary, a top and a bottom. So for my paper here, I'm going to do 2 on this paper, and I'll turn it over and do another third on the other side, because your job is going to be to create 3 different bubble letter fonts using your name, okay? So the first thing that you want to do is start by writing the letters very lightly. So as lightly as you can, go ahead and write your name. I'm I'm writing Starbird. Okay. And I'm also given some space, so it's not perfect. It's just a little bit spaced out to give the opportunity to create the bubble letters around it. So I'm going to go ahead with this. So first step is to lightly draw your letters across the page. So it sometimes takes a little bit of practice to get good at that. It seems like a simple task, but in order to do nice spacing in between the letters and to draw lightly, that takes a lot of practice. Okay, so the first one I'm going to do is like a round bubble letter. So once I have the letters written out here, I can go ahead and what I call this is framing the letter. So you never touch the lightly drawn S. You never touch it. You just go around it. So you're essentially creating a frame around it, okay? So now I'm going to do the same thing for the T. And then what you do is you go in and erase the interior letter. And there you have it. You just keep on going. It's not a difficult task if you just follow the steps, because a lot of kids will ask me, how do I do this letter or how do I do that letter? And if you just follow these exact same steps, you can do any letter. It doesn't matter the letter. You just follow the step, draw the letter lightly, and then go ahead and frame it. And there's tons of fonts online. You can look up bubble letter fonts to use. There's absolutely all kinds of fonts that can be used as inspiration for what you might want yours to look like. There's graffiti fonts. There's more 3-dimensional fonts. There are fonts that are different creatures. Each letter is a different creature. So you can just go and find and research and look up and see some inspiration if you need some inspiration, or you can just kind of see what you make and go from there, because you never know, you might invent your own new font. So I'm going to keep going with my next 2. So I'm going to go around this first. So the first step is draw the letters lightly. The second step is start to frame your letters. Decide what kind of font you want to use and frame your letters. And then the third step is going to be to actually design them, because now that we have a font laid out. Whoops, I spelled my name wrong. Let's try this again and see if I can spell my name right. That happens a lot when you're writing fonts, because you just get lost in writing and thinking about the letters. That you. All right, that looks better. So now I'm going to do a more square kind of a font with points, and it looks like there's dimension. So for this one, I did all capital letters. So you can see I did lowercase here, I did capital letters here. So I'm going to go ahead and make this some square font. And I did the exact same thing. I did not touch that inside S. I went all the way around it. You do have to pay attention to what you're doing. You can't just miraculously hope that this is going to work out without kind of focusing on what you're doing, especially like that's a perfect example. I was talking and writing, and so I naturally lost my train of thought and spelled my name wrong. So I'm going to keep on going. And if your letters intersect like that, that's totally fine. I mean, that's such a kind of stylized thing as well. Graffiti letters interact and overlap with one another. So if you want to do something like that, if you like the way it looks, which I do love when letters do that, when they cross over and overlap, because I think it looks kind of cool. So you are welcome to go ahead and do that. So it doesn't have to be, they don't have to be perfectly spaced, but you do want to get a good spacing so that you kind of have control over what you're doing. That's really what's most important. Now I'm creating some dimension with the lettering, as you saw. And if you had me in 7th grade, if you're in 8th grade and you had me, we practiced this technique. This is 1-point perspective, but it's just kind of using it loosely. Now, there's no reason why you can't experiment with this if you're in 6th or 7th grade and you're doing this and you like the way this looks. It's definitely something that you can experiment with. And what essentially you do is you decide where is the light coming from. So for me, I decided that the light's coming from here. If the sun was shining over this way, it would be shining across these letters this way, so the shadow would be on the opposite side. So all I do is just, once I've decided that, I just make lines going off in the same direction every single time. And then I just draw the lines to connect them so that the edge of the shape is all set. And then I shade it in. So you could experiment with doing that, because this is kind of like a little challenge for those of you who like a little art challenge. And it's a fun thing to do, and it makes your letters look like they pop. So if you kind of like that look, and you can do the same thing on here too. There's no reason, like if you chose the light coming from this direction over here, shining there, you'd create shadow on these sides. So what you would do is go like this. And you go like this. So it doesn't matter, the letters don't have to be square in order to make shadow. They can be round, but it's definitely something that enhances your work. So if you want to give it a try, it would be a good opportunity to try it here on the rough draft. It gives you the opportunity to fool around and make a mistake, and if it doesn't look right, you can go back in and change it or add to it or say, I want to see if it looks better this way. Or there's no real amount of practice in art that's ever too much. You can practice and practice forever, really, and you'll get better at different skills, and you'll morph different skills, and you'll see things differently. So the more practice is always the better with this. So there you have it. And then I go in and I erase my inside letter because I drew it lightly. So that was the whole point of drawing it lightly, so that I don't need to keep that letter there. If I drew it really dark, you wouldn't be able to see, or you would still be able to see the letter. So I don't want to draw dark. I want to draw as lightly as possible. Okay, so I'm going to do another one on the back here and turn my paper over and do another one. So your job is going to be to draw 3 different fonts of your name. So you're going to practice your name 3 different times, and you can do your first name, your last name, or a nickname. That's fine. Either one is fine. The only thing is, if your nickname is 3 letters, then maybe give yourself a little bit more of a challenge to do your full name. And if your name is 3 letters, you maybe could do your last initial, or like a favorite number. Like if you have a team that you love, or you have a number that you love, you could add that in there as well to practice and kind of give yourself a little bit more of a challenge than just doing 3 letters. Okay, so I'm going to do I'm just going to do star for this one because you guys get the gist. So again, you see I did the exact same thing. So do not skip these steps. Don't all of a sudden think you're a pro and skip over doing these steps. The first step is to draw the lines, draw it nice and lightly. The second step after you've done that is going to be to decide what kind of font you want to do. And then the third step is going to be to frame those letters, okay? So for this one, I'm going to do what looks like flames coming off my letters. So essentially curved, but with flames. So if you practiced the curve one earlier, you kind of have that piece down. Or maybe at least you practiced a little bit with it. And then the flame part is just, you know, making these organic kind of squiggly lines as they come up and off. And you just kind of have to practice with it. So I'm going to make my letters look like they're on fire. Okay, so once you complete this, once you completed this, if you have a little extra time, you can experiment with shading, or you could experiment with coloring. You know, for this, I could color and practice like orange to yellow, or red, orange, yellow, like make it look like it's kind of an ombre color. And you don't have to color the whole thing in, but you can practice, just practice one letter. So give yourself the opportunity to see which one you like best, because this is what's going to go on the cover of your portfolio. So this will be something that you're going to use, going to make it nice and big, and you're going to follow these exact steps to create this on the cover of your portfolio. All right, good luck. Thank you so much, and don't forget to submit your work.